Hello everyone. Thank you for attending today's webinar, Engineering Collaboration in the Cloud. Our presenter today is Marius Neuhauser of BlueCielo. Marius has over 15 years of hands-on experience in engineering and maintenance processes. He's been with BlueCielo for over 4 years with a focus on helping companies maximize profitability through the use of scalable asset lifecycle information management solutions. Today, he will show you how Meridian 360 Portal can help you achieve secure engineering collaboration in the cloud with your entire supplier network while maintaining your internal best practices. But before we begin, a bit of housekeeping. I want to let everyone know that you're in listen-only mode. Please make note of any questions you may have as we go along, and at the end of the presentation, we'll invite you to type your questions, which I'll then read out loud for Marius to answer. Additionally, all those attending today will receive a thank you email from us with a link to view the recorded version of this webinar. So with that, Marius, you can go ahead and get started whenever you're ready.
Thank you very much, Susan. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, also from my end. I would like to welcome you to that BlueCielo webinar about engineering collaboration, as Susan already announced. We'll talk a bit about our Meridian 360 Portal product. So it's my pleasure to guide you through that session today, and I hope you enjoy it and you'll benefit from it. So let's get started. Oh, I think that went a bit too quick. So that's our agenda for today. We'll first talk a bit about, the collaboration challenges we've seen with customers and being out in the field. Then I'm introducing a new way of collaboration with our Meridian 360 Portal product. We'll talk about exchanging data with your contractors, especially the different scenarios we can provide there. And we will go through an entire scenario from beginning to end, looking at the various roles we have in that process and how they work with the system. Then we'll talk a couple of minutes about the monitoring the project progress. So also there, what kind of possibilities we have. After that, we close with the business benefits and how to get started. And then we'll have our question and answer session at the end. Susan mentioned it already. Feel free to type in the questions already into the question box if you want to throughout the presentation. Otherwise, you can also type them in at the end, and I'm happy to answer those. So the world is changing. So we've seen that the business model has changed in a lot of the companies we work with. So we see that a lot of companies work nowadays with contractors. More and more work gets outsourced. Also, they make use of experts around the world. So they're extending their network and basically spread geographically. That implies that all those people somehow need to be linked and work closely together and share information. And they need to do that in a very efficient and integrated manner, right? Sending emails for communication, for exchanging document is not the best thing if you want to track it and report up on it in your projects. So talking about the specific challenges we encountered. The risk of project delays due to wrong information, meaning that, probably you encountered the same situation, but, you send out an outdated version to a contractor. They made their entire planning based upon this, and afterwards you get an engineering planning back, which is wrong because you sent accidentally the wrong information, the outdated information to your contractor. So that can be avoided, obviously. A costly manual handling process which is prone to error. Talking especially about the work in big projects where you have a lot of data exchange with various contractors going on. It's very difficult to handle that entire process. We've seen different ways of working using Excel spreadsheets and all of that, but needless to say that it is pretty cumbersome to maintain all of that, and it's still static data and depends on the individual persons maintaining that. An unclear view of who has sent what to who and when. I already mentioned working with emails might not be the most efficient way of communicating in your project, because maybe you send out an email to the contractor and the contractor returns a revised version of a document of some kind of data and the contractor sends it out to 5 people in your organization, and those 5 people start storing it at different locations, and things get very messy because there's no structured way of exchanging it. And even though you might have a process in place where you work with document controllers who manually take care about that coordination, it still resides with that one single person who needs to manage that entire process. And it is very, very difficult at the end to get full transparency throughout the process to see who has been sent to what and who and when. Obviously, IT security constraints when you work with external parties. So I think we can exclude emails from that discussion, but maybe you work with FTP servers today to provide information, large file sizes to external parties. But that is always kind of a security risk to give people access to whatever server which is owned by you as a company. So either you put it outside of your firewall, which makes it vulnerable, or you need to figure out a way to properly manage that. And at the end, there's one problem from the contractor side, meaning they need to get access to that system. So we've seen various different approaches from just putting out a server there in the DMZ and everybody can access it and happily up and download files, which is not very secured, or we've seen highly secured platforms where basically the contractor needed to have single sign-on passwords, all those, temporary passwords, all of that stuff, keys to, log into that environments, into those environments. So also there are multiple approaches, but we think we can offer much more efficient and much more beneficial approach to that. Incomplete data handed over and limited resources to check. That's a very common issue, especially when you come from big project, engineering project, and you move over through the handover into operations. Usually in your projects, you have a big amount you have a lot of staff members who can take care about, managing that process of where the documents and data flows, and you have some kind of resources to check it at the end. But depending on how good you are within your timeline, and if you're getting closer to the handover and you're running out of time, we've seen multiple times that there are simply at the end limited resources who are able to check those documents. So probably the contractor handed over a package of a couple of thousand documents, but nobody really has the manpower on short notice to review all of these documents if they are correct, if they are meeting the company standards when it comes to title blocks, all of that stuff, or even the accuracy and the correctness of the content in that drawing itself. So that provides a lot of pain for the involved people on the owner-operator side. And last but not least, the uncontrolled sharing of documents through online services and emails. That relates a bit to the IT security topic, and that means that we've seen companies using simple sharing services like Box, Dropbox, all of those services, but they are tricky when it comes to their terms and conditions and the ownership of the data. So that is, for that reason, in a lot of companies, it's very difficult from an IT perspective to work with those systems, and sometimes those systems aren't even approved or by your IT department, but people still use it due to a lack of a proper system. So those are some of the changes we've seen so far with customers and being out in the field. And now what I would like to do is I would like to start the first poll question here, and I would like to give you the opportunity to answer that poll question, and then you can see how you rank against your peers, and we can get a feeling on if our experience in the field matches up with basically your answers. So the poll question here is, what is your biggest challenge when you work with contractors? Is it the unclear view of who has sent what to whom? Is it an unclear view on quality of deliverables? Is it a lot of manual corrections and rework? Is it project delays, or is it unexpected costs? So I give you probably a couple of seconds to answer that and to put in your vote, and then shortly we'll get to the results. Okay, so here we are. There are the results. So we've seen that in general, the majority of you guys answered that it's an unclear view on the quality of deliverables. So that ties into one of the last points we had before, about getting data back, which is not really quality checked, and getting incomplete data back or simply wrong information back. And also interesting that a lot of people voted for the manual corrections and rework. And that is a very time-consuming item, as you know, that, whatever you encounter during your review cycles and you need to have a lot of back and forth between the contractor and the owner-operator, it always costs, obviously, money and puts the project on risk to be delayed, which leads to the project delays. And, so thank you, everybody, for answering that poll question. So by that, we can continue our presentation, and now I'd like to introduce a new way of collaboration to you guys. So, Meridian 360 portal. You see that the Meridian 360 portal is located in the cloud, and it provides easy access to all the various different stakeholders you see on the screen. Those can be, by the way, internal as well as external contractors. So here we name contractors, subcontractors, suppliers, EPCs, but also think about a division within your company who might not have access to your Meridian system, or any integrated contractors, for example. That Meridian 360 portal, as I said, is located in the cloud, but it's linked to your on-premise Meridian system. So there's a secure connection between both systems, and it automatically exchanges the data whenever things start changing. So if you send data across to your contractor and you receive data back from your contractor, it all automatically synchronizes to your on-premise Meridian system. But we will dive into some of the details a little later in the presentation. So let's look into some of the key capabilities we have in that software. First of all, managing a portfolio of projects. That means that we can easily manage a variety of projects in just one platform. And that means we can manage small, easy change projects you might have up to large capital projects. You benefit from engineering functionality like CAD integrations, which we offer on the portal side. And it provides a simple and intuitive web interface to your contractors, which is very important to speed up the adoption and the usage. Because obviously we all know if contractors get extra work by, putting data into the portal, into whatever portal or platform you can think of, if it's extra work for them, they will charge you for that. So our main purpose on the portal is to make it as easy as possible for them to use and to adopt. Document control. You can facilitate efficient and controlled document exchange between internal and external stakeholders. And also working with deliverables and due dates helps you staying in control of your document flow and your data flow throughout the project. Dashboarding and reporting capabilities will support you providing the necessary overview and help you making your decisions. Looking at distribution and review, we actually provide an automated distribution process based on a distribution matrix to increase the efficiency and reduce the workload of the document controllers in case you work with document controllers. That's a very nice and easy methodology, which I think now most of the document controllers do on a manual way. But in our system, you can define specific roles and assign people to those roles, and then, for example, just taking something, inventing something. If you have electrical work to execute on a specific asset, you can define in the system that for electrical work, it will always be contractor A and those 5 people from contractor A, plus some people from within your organization for review. You can define that in the system, and as soon as you create a package and you say that package is for electrical work, it will automatically assign the corresponding persons and make sure that everything flows automatically. That takes away additional effort from document controllers or people working in those projects. But we also provide reviewing and markup capabilities, especially when we talk about the review step. And that goes even one step beyond. So talking about review and markup, I'm pretty sure you know the redlining functionalities in PDF documents. In the portal, we implemented an offline and online review. So that means a person who gets a document or a bunch of documents assigned for review, they can decide to download the documents, make their annotations, red lines offline in their Acrobat reader, for example, and when they are done, they can upload that PDF document and the red lines will be put into the portal. At the same time, people can do red lines online using our HTML5 viewer, so they don't need to download it, they can do it straight in the portal. The nice thing is that both of them will be merged. So you can think of a scenario where a couple of people did already their red lines online and a couple of them did it offline because they were offsite or traveling in the plane, wherever. And at the end they upload it and it will be merged with the online version. And then it's up to the lead reviewer to combine and basically approve which red lines will be taken over into the final document. But we also see that later on in the scenario. And going forward to the next functionality, which is auditing and report. Let me just see why. Now there we are. We also offer full proof of control and the traceability of all the actions we do in the system. So that means that we track who's doing what in the system, but also who gets invited into a project. And all of that information will help you at the end building a proper reporting and dashboarding mechanism. Also there, we have a slot a little later to talk much more in detail about that. And the last point here on that slide is bulk up and download. So that means that we provide a very simple user interface that provides different options to upload files through drag and drop or selective dialogues. The entire up and download actually works natively in the web client. So that means you don't need any additional plugins or any additional installations on the contractor side, for example. On top, at the end, the CAD integration will also help you with your compliancy checks to, for example, company standards, and it helps you with the validation of external references to ensure that at the end you get a complete and consistent data model from your contractor. So there it takes away some of the manual effort you probably have today in checking those documents on compliancy. Good. By that, let me move over to the next bullet point, which is exchanging data with your contractors. So now we get a bit into the meat of that software, and we actually also will go into a live demonstration. So first of all, I would like to introduce two different concepts how you can exchange your data with contractors. We call them a neutral relationship. That basically means that that's a relationship with a contractor which you work with maybe once a year, or once every couple of years, or maybe it's a big project and you just work with that contractor once in a lifetime. Okay, so those are very strict relationships. I would say you need a lot of monitoring. There's not really a trusted relationship yet. So that's why in that scenario, the owner-operator is in control of the majority of the steps. The alternative to that is the trusted relationship. In the trusted relationship, we talk about, for example, integrated contractors. We talk about contractors who work with you, the owner-operator, on an annual basis, on a weekly basis, very close cooperations, and there is already trust established. In that case, we have a self-service scenario, which means that the contractor at the end, they look at your master data, they can pick the information they want to get, and they can receive the information triggered by themselves rather than the owner-operator providing everything. But let's look a bit into some of the details in the process. So looking at the neutral relationship first, we call it, that one is more of a push scenario. You see it already on the color coding here. The owner-operator in green takes the majority of the steps. The process is as follows. First of all, the owner-operator collects the documents for the contractor. He creates the package, he puts all the information he wants to share with his contractor into that package, and afterwards he sends it over. Then it's the contractor is on, and he needs to obviously download the documents, make his offline revisions, changes, all of that stuff in his authoring tools, and afterwards he can upload the new versions, new documents, whatever his deliverables are. And then the data flows back to the owner-operator. The owner-operator makes the quality checks we already talked about, and at the end there's the approve and release if everything is correct. Otherwise, there will be a new iteration. So that's on the neutral relationship side. If we look now at the trusted relationship, it's more of a pull scenario. So that means the contractor pulls information from the owner-operator. And you see now, if you compare the color coding again, now the contractor owns the majority of the steps. So in that scenario, which we call the self-service scenario, the contractor can have read access to your master data. So basically the contractor will look into your master data repository. He will search for the information he needs in order to execute his engineering task, and he puts all the information he wants to get into a package. Then this package will be sent to the owner-operator, and the owner-operator can decide if he approves that request or not. If he approves that request, the documents will flow over to the contractor, and he can continue downloading the documents, making modifications, and uploading documents. At the end, the same steps apply here. So once the contractor uploads the new version, the owner-operator will make the quality checks, compliancy checks, and then approve and release the documents. So you see, those are two very different approaches, and it depends a bit on your business need and also on the level of trust you have with your contractors. Obviously, the self-service scenario is less work for the owner-operator because a lot of that stuff is triggered by the contractor. But also on the flip side, you need to be aware that you expose at least viewing access to some of your master data. Okay, good. For the next slides and the rest of our today's session, by the way, we will focus on the neutral relationship. So we'll look into that push scenario. We covered from beginning to end, but be aware that for the trusted relationship one, the self-service scenario, there will be a dedicated webinar later this year. So let's now look into the push scenario for the neutral relationship. So it all starts with the owner-operator on the left side. The first thing somebody needs to do, and I just call that person here project document controller. It can be a project manager in small projects. It can be the engineer in small projects. In bigger projects, it might have dedicated document controllers. So just see that project document controller as a placeholder for a person being in charge of those activities. So the first step in that process is that things need to be prepared, right? Usually this preparation of documents is done by sometimes the engineers taking documents under revision into their projects, and by that prepare all the information. Then the project document controller will start initiating that project. And please look at that color coding of those boxes. All the green boxes are processes which are done in the Meridian 360 portal, so in our cloud solution. All the orange items here, those are processes in Meridian, and most of them are pretty much standard, and probably if you work for a couple of years already with Meridian, you will know them pretty well. Okay, so the project document controller, he initiated a project in the Meridian 360 portal. So the next step is he will invite contractors or suppliers to work with him. And we see that a little later in the system, but he has different options to do that. At the end, what he needs for first contact is simply an email address. And then the invitation will be sent over. The contractor or supplier, they will accept the invitation, and with the acceptance, they will become part of that project team within Meridian 360. So once they are part of that project team, the document controller can start sending information and sending packages. So they would take all the documents which are necessary for that change, put them into a package, just as you would do in the, I would say, old-fashioned days, but that's still the case in some companies today, is that you pack everything into a file, a zip file, and send it over by email, or you burn it to a CD and ship it over, various different ways. In here you can see the same analogy, that you just put something into a box, basically a collection, and then send it over. So sending it over to the contractor, and now it's the turn of the contractor, and he can start modifying the documents, modifying the drawings, adding new stuff, changing metadata, doing all that stuff which he needs to do. So once the contractor is done with it and uploaded the revised or the new documents, there will be an automatic notification to a project engineer. Again, here I call that person a project engineer. If you work with document controllers, sometimes it goes back to the document controller in this case, because he's that single point of contact. Maybe it's a project manager, maybe just an engineer within the project team. So again, also see that here as a placeholder. That depends a bit on your process within your company. So he gets that notification, and then there is a synchronization of packages taking place. So at that point in time, those documents which were uploaded by the contractor to the Meridian 360 portal, they now get downloaded to the local Meridian version, or to the local Meridian repository, I need to say. So once they are synchronized to your Meridian project, now the project engineer can decide to do two things for his checks. He can either check and verify it within the Meridian system by using the Meridian workflow, the compare functionality in the documents, and you can tackle that within Meridian if, for example, all the reviewers are anyways part of your Meridian user committee. The alternative to that is he can trigger what we call a collaborative review. In that collaborative review, he will basically create a similar package than the document controller did when he sent over the transmittal, but this time he creates a review package. And that review package can contain one or multiple files, and it gets again synchronized to Meridian 360 portal, where it's available for, you see it here on those lines, that it's available for contractors, for example. It might be available to other people inside your organization which don't have access to the Meridian system. And that's a very strong and powerful tool that basically allows you to do the redlinings online and offline we talked about before. The final step after the review and the quality check and compliancy checks are all done, and probably there is already an iteration taking place of some additional modification, but at some point the documents are fine, and then they will be released faster and will flow back and be released out of your project into your master area within Meridian. So that's the end-to-end process which we designed in Meridian 360 in combination with Meridian. You see that some of those activities, as I said before, the green ones will take place in the portal, the orange ones will take place on your Meridian system. Now it's probably a good time to start the second poll question. And this, we do the same approach as the last one. I would like to take a couple of seconds to read through that question and answer it, so that we can get a good impression on how you rank against your peers, but also how the majority of the people here, and therefore the industries reflected, are working nowadays. So the question here is, what is the most common project type in your organization? Is it a greenfield or large projects? Is it brownfield or change projects? Shutdown turnaround projects? Is it approval projects with authorities or tender processes? I think that depends also a bit on, as I said before, on the industry you're in and the type of company you are. But I'm very eager to see the outcome of that poll here. Okay, there we are. So the majority of you guys voted for brownfield or change projects, which is just naturally also the space where BlueCielo is most present, probably. Also, a lot of you guys for greenfield or large projects. So those are the two major, the most common project types I would say we've seen in that industry. That matches up very, very good. Shutdown turnaround projects. Yeah, 11%. I'm a bit surprised that number seems relatively low to me, considering the fact that there are usually in every plant there are shutdowns taking place and revisions taking place. But maybe some of you also ranked it a bit into the brownfield or change projects. Good. Thank you very much for typing in your answer. And by that, I would like to start introducing our first person in that process. As you remember, we started on the left side of that entire process with I call them project document controller. And now I would like to add a face to that role, and I would like to introduce Donna to you. So Donna is a document controller. You see her quote here, I want to be able to start my day with a clear overview of which items need my attention. And I wrote here some bullet points which are very usual and which we hear a lot from people having that role in organizations. So some of the goals and motivations is obviously she's responsible for performing the quality assurance tasks. She's coordinating and communicating with all the different vendors and contractors. Some of the frustration this document controller and Donna has is that sometimes they don't have a clear view on priorities and don't know which items need their attention, especially in bigger projects where a lot of things coming in, going out, they lose some kind of transparency. And also, and that is nicely reflected by the first poll question I asked you guys, is that it's very complex and difficult to check if documents meet standards, sometimes due to a lack of simply staff and personnel being on board at that point in time. Sometimes it's just because of the complexity of this engineering project. In the ideal world, Donna would like to have a simple to use system for project members and contractors, a dashboard giving her the necessary overview of the project status to show her which items needs her attention, the automatic notification of contractors. So when something is available, she don't want to send an additional email. Those things should be automated by the system. And also the automated compliance checks we already introduced a little bit earlier, talking about CAD validation, external reference checks, all those things. And now let's look at Donna's piece of the pie. So here you see again the process I introduced a little bit earlier, and we see the steps Donna is responsible for. So if we remember correctly, she needs to initiate that project, then she's going to invite contractors, and then she's going to send over a package. For the sake of time, I already did the initiation of the project, so now let's look into how to add people to that project. So let me just move over to my Meridian 360 system here. And now we end up here at the landing page of Meridian 364. So in here, there are different ways of authenticating yourself with a system. Right now, we provide the authentication method using Google, Microsoft, and Azure AD. For now, I'll just use my Azure account and just log in with my personal credentials. And now I'm logging into the project overview Meridian 360. Honestly, I have quite a bunch of projects in here, 99 at the number, and now I'm looking into the project I created specifically for our session today, which is called APM 546, and that's called a conveyor replacement project. So I'm going into that project. Now I get some very high-level details here on my project itself, seeing the project name, who created it, at what point in time, and I also see that I have 4 project members in this project. So I'm clicking on the members, which gives me a list of all the members which are right now active, and I see here that list of 4 project members lists all the people which are active in that project. I don't have any pending invitations, and I'll tell you the difference. In members, which are real members to the project, if you remember that from the process flow, are people who have received an invitation and who have already authorized themselves and registered themselves to watch the system. Then they become project members, and the persons within Meridian can only send information to project members. If I'm now going to invite somebody new who wasn't registered in Meridian 360 before, I need his or her email address, and I'll just put it in and send out an invitation. And that person will stay in the pending invitations area until they accept the invitation. So also that one gives a bit of overview towards the project members, seeing that which contractor already accepted the invitation and is active on the portal, and which ones are not, and which ones are already invited. Okay, so now we want to add our contractor. So I'm going to click on Add Member, and in here you see that by default I see all the different people in my list here which I already worked with and which are known to Meridian 360 portal. And in my case, I'm looking for Kirk, who's my contractor. So I'm selecting Kirk here, adding that member to a list, and you notice that I can add multiple people at the same time, and I need to assign a role to Kirk. I already said Kirk will be my contractor, so I can assign a contractor role. And depending on which role I'm picking here, you'll notice that they have different authorities and privileges in the system. And I would like to notify Kirk that he's part of the project, so I say, please join. So that's about it. I can click on Add, and Kirk will receive a message and get invited. Please note that there's a second tab which says Invite by Email, and that applies for the people which are not known to the system yet. And there I can simply just add the email address and say, I would like to invite that person to my project. So now let's move on with inviting Kirk. I'm clicking on Add, and now you see he immediately got added to the members area because he's already known to that project with the company name and all the details behind it. Good. That's first of all the piece of Donna in the portal. So we've seen now how to add new project members. But now the second step, let me just go back to that slide here. The second step is actually to send out a package. You see on the color coding that step is done right now in the Meridian system. So let me move over to my Meridian system. And in here, I'm using the Meridian 2017 web client. In preparation, I already did and added my project as I told you before. So here's my APM project. And if I just quickly look at my project information, that's my conveyor replacement project. Okay, now I need to put some documents into a package because I want Kirk to modify them. So I'm just picking those two here, and now I need to create my transmittal. So I'm clicking on those documents, and I will say Meridian 360 add to my new transmittal package. So once I do that, the system will prompt me with my transmittal package dialog. This is, I think, pretty known for everybody. They'll be working with Meridian, getting those pop-up windows and wizards helping you, guiding you through the system. So in that case, I'm sticking to my electrical work. Very simple name. I have a couple of options here. I can give it a description to give him already some kind of guidance what he needs to do. I can decide to send it out immediately, which I would like to do. I will notify Kirk and also update the transmittal when I send it. Now I can select an issue reason. What is it I want Kirk to do? Is it for review, handover, information? In this case, I want him to update it. So I'm clicking on for update. And for the due date, I'm probably just selecting end of this month. A bunch of other settings, by the way, please note those can be configured that they are depending on the issue reason, for example. In my case, to provide the highest flexibility, I have them additionally. So here I can decide if I would like to send the source file, so the native. I can decide if I want to send the rendition, so the PDF, I can decide to send it read-only and include the transmittal sheet. Based on what kind of information you send, if I'm sending things for update, it isn't very smart to send them the PDF rendition only. So in here, I'm just taking those things away because they don't make sense if I send something for update. So I'm setting the source file including the transmittal sheet, and now I can click here on Assign To, and you'll notice those are the people which we've seen before on the Meridian 360 side. And I'm picking my Kirk contractor here. I say Apply for all documents, hitting the Finish button, and now the system starts and is taking those two documents, putting them into a transmittal package, creating that transmittal package, which is represented in Meridian by the Excel spreadsheet, and will automatically synchronize those data from my local Meridian into Meridian 360 in the cloud. So just for the sake of completeness, I have in my project a specific structure here which shows me my transmittal sheets, and in here there's the transmittal sheet we just created. I'm just showing you the transmittal package details, so that's the electrical work which I have just sent out to Kirk contractor. Be aware that Meridian manages the relationships between those transmittal packages and the file sent. So if I would like to see what's the content of that transmittal sheet, I can either open it and see it in the Excel spreadsheet, or I can click on my links and see that it has outgoing references towards those two documents. So also there, Meridian takes care about the entire process. Okay, that's the first piece of Donna's work. So we've seen now how to send an invitation and invite somebody to Meridian 360, and we also send a package. So let's move forward to the next person in line, which is our contractor. So let me introduce here Kirk to you. Kirk's quote here is, he really don't want to waste his time preparing and sending files for projects he's working on. So obviously Kirk owns money with, creating content and doing business and working on site. So they don't want to waste any time on, overhead activities. So that's why his goal is spending as little time as possible on overhead activities. Some of the frustration he has is sometimes he receives wrong information, outdated information from the client if the client is not organized well, time wasted by sending data back and forth. Also IT security, I mentioned it already in the introduction a bit, that sometimes he's suffering with, log to various different systems using different authentication methods, dialing into VPN and all those fancy stuff. His ideal experience is obviously an easy-to-use system which is accessible from anywhere in the world and which is at the end supporting his delivery process. So let's look at Kirk's piece of the pie here. Again, the scenario, we've seen he's only working in Meridian 360 portal. That's why all these action items here are green. The first thing he obviously needs to do is he needs to accept the invitation. We don't need to do it right now because he was already known to Meridian 360 to the portal itself. So that's a step we can skip. So that means we can go directly now to the second step, meaning the contractor will now log into Meridian 360 and start getting the information he got sent by Donna. So also here, let me just move over to Meridian 360, and I'm just signing myself out here to start fresh. And also on a second note, I'll just refresh here, and I'm now looking at Kirk Contractor's Gmail address, and you see that he got the invitation to the project. As I said before, there is no authentication anymore involved because he's already known to the Meridian 360 team, so it just says you're invited to my conveyor replacement project. But also there's a automatic notification in here that there was a package which has been sent to him for update, and it says this is the transmittal package number, electrical work for my conveyor replacement project. So when he receives that notification, he can click on the open dialog and information will open up immediately. So here again, I now need to sign in, and this time I'm signing in with Kirk's Google mail address. I'm deciding to use Google as authentication provider, and now it brings me straight to that package and he can start working with it. Again, here some basic details on the package, and I see that there are 2 documents included in one transmittal sheet. I can now download all those things individually. I can view them, but usually what Kirk wants to do is he wants to download the entire bunch. Clicking on download, I can decide now what kind of information I would like to download. In our case, I just sent the source files, so source is selected by default, but maybe in some cases you send both source and rendition and you can make the decision here. And I also want to save it to one single folder rather than a folder structure. I'm hitting the download button, and again here that download is pushed to my local computer. We see it here, the download is finished. So let me just open that one up in a folder, and I'm just dragging it over. And this is now the zip file which got downloaded, and I'm just extracting it here and show you the content. So here we are. We have the two AutoCAD files plus my transmittal sheet. And if I'm now looking at my transmittal sheet, which is opening up here on my second screen, so also let me drop that over. That's a very basic transmittal sheet I configured in my environment, giving some basic details on the project and the transmittal itself, and then listing the content of this package, including revision numbers and so on. So now the contractor, he can download, he can work with those files offline, he can use his own authoring applications, he can modify files, he can also change the metadata in here to update them, he can add new files, add new metadata, simply work with the files. So now the next step I would like to do is I would like to, just assuming we've changed those two documents, we would like to upload the revised documents. So hitting the upload button brings us to that upload page here, and again I can select to browse for the files or just drag and drop them, and in here I'm just selecting those two documents. I'm not taking the transmittal sheet because I didn't change anything on the metadata. So you see now for a couple of seconds, and I don't know if that was visible to you guys on the screen, but in the first instance the files get uploaded to the server. In the second instance, the files will be analyzed. So that analyzation will take care of finding if it's a new version of a document or if that's an entirely new document. In our case here, it found matching documents. So that means it will be imported as a new version for an existing document. And it also checks the dependencies, talking about external references, for example, making sure that the contractor uploads all the external references. If I would have references in that case to those documents and I'm not uploading those references, it will actually give me like a red sign here, and I can decide if I want to override that from a company perspective, so the owner-operator can decide if the contractor is allowed to still upload it without all the extras, or I can really force the contractor to only deliver a complete package. So now I can, upload a bunch of more files, new files, whatever. I'm now just going to save that action here, returning to my package. And you'll see now that those two documents we just uploaded, they have a new modified stamp, modified by Kirk. We didn't touch the transmittal sheet, so I'm skipping that one here. And the final piece Kirk needs to do whenever he's ready with that package, he clicks on send. So now Kirk needs to decide, okay, what is the reason for sending? I would like to send that one for review to project document control, and it would be nice if I can get an answer by Wednesday next week. Also here, the possibility of adding a short description. Let me send it over, and now you see files are sent. Kirk can still see that package in here. He already sees that the status is sent. I can also still view the content of that, but you see I can't send or upload any more stuff because now the ownership has been transferred back to the project engineer on the Meridian side. So that already brings me to my next guy in line, which is Eric. So Eric is our project engineer. His quote is, "I want all engineers to work as a team in our projects in order to deliver the highest possible quality in the shortest time possible." So some of his goals is that he needs to ensure the correct and complete engineering data at the end of the project. So he's responsible for the content. He also needs to make sure that there's an efficient collaboration because that has direct impact on the project success and timing. Some of his frustration are incomplete data getting sent by contractors, a lot of time wasted for reviewing documents, content which got delivered is scattered across the organization, so all kinds of problems. His ideal experience is he wants to simplify the collection process of the project data. He wants obviously to have less work with the validation of data and wants the system to take over that responsibility. And also he wants to enable peer reviews online and in real time. So let's move over here. So that's the scenario of Eric. You see that he has 3 possible options in Meridian and 1 in Meridian 360. First and foremost, information needs to get synchronized back to Meridian, and then, as I said already earlier in the process, Eric can decide if he wants to check and verify files within Meridian, so using the Meridian workflow and the Meridian tool set to verify documents, or he can decide and do the collaborative review. I'm now showing you the scenario 2 because I think that the majority of you may already know the process in Meridian as you work with it on a daily basis. So now let me focus on a collaborative review here. And for the sake of time, I already did some preparations here on the portal side. So let me just sign out here and change my hat from being Kirk the contractor back and signing in with my Azure account. And let me go straight to the beginning of my project here. So now I'm Eric, assume I'm Eric, and I have a review package to check. And by the way, also Eric receives a notification. Let me just pull that up. I already, as I said, for timing purpose, I already prepared that. So this is the invitation Eric will get to his email address saying, dear blah, 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 you have been assigned as a lead reviewer to that review package here, which I named isometric check in our project conveyor replacement. So also for him, it's pretty easy just clicking on that button here and it will direct him straight to that review package. So in my review package now, I just have basically one document for review. And you see here that I have a quick overview of people who have reviewed it. I have required reviewers who definitely need to review it, and I have some optional reviewers. So that's my quick overview. I have some more details on the left-hand side. Okay, so in here I see that Marius and Donna are both required. I have optional reviewers are Peter and Irinu, and the lead reviewer is Marius. Okay, so from here I can now start my review, and I told you before that I have a couple of options if I want to review that document. Let's first click on that document. It will bring me to the document page. On that document page I see the files. In that case it's one file, and I also get the information extracted from the file, which will give me already an overview of all the comments which have been done on that file. I told you that there's a possibility of doing online and offline reviews. For the sake of time, I'm skipping the offline review because it really just downloads the file to your local computer. You open it in Acrobat, add your red lines, and upload it again using the upload command, and then everything will be merged. For the sake of simplicity, let's just look at that file online. So I'm clicking on it. It will open up the HTML5 viewer, and if I'm open up here my comment tab, I see that Irinu already added a comment yesterday or already 2 days before saying remove that third page, and we scroll down and indeed there's some kind of a bad page straight at the end. So let's just add some more reviewing on top here and just to visualize it, and just taking the call out here and say pump is different. Just saving my information, and I'm basically done with my review. Be aware that this process can happen in real time, so I can have 5 people opening up that document, and as soon as I hit the save button, everybody would see my comments immediately. So I'm closing down that viewer window and just hitting refresh here. And now you see that the system automatically extracted all my comments I did right now in the viewer. It shows that I made some rectangles here, and I also added my comment saying pump is different. So that's my review here. I can set my response code to be reviewed with comments and finalizing my review. And now you see that here I'm as a required reviewer, I reviewed it with comments. So going back to the package, I could now finalize the package because I have the role of a lead reviewer. So if I'm hitting the finalize button, it will tell me hey, not all of the required reviewers have completed their responses. And I'm talking about Donna here, who hasn't completed her review. So I can decide to finalize it anyway or wait for Donna to reply. In our case, I'm just skipping the next steps and continuing with the presentation because we are getting short on time. So we looked at the process end-to-end right now, looked at 3 different personas, document controller, the contractor, and the project engineer. And now just a couple of more words on monitoring the project progress. Talking first of all about project dashboards. We have project dashboards in Meridian 360, which helps you seeing an overview of the status of your projects, helping you determine what items need your attention, give you information on vendors, how different vendors perform, helping you making vendor audits at the end of the year, for example, to decide which vendors you would like to continue your relationship and which of the vendors, for example, always delivered over time or late or insufficient quality, those kind of things. Next to the project-specific dashboards, we also have the audit trails, which you might know from Meridian. In Meridian 360, the audit trail tracks a whole lot of things, starting from who got invited, when a package was created, who created that package, which files were included, what has been sent to whom and when, all the people who downloaded it, who viewed it, who made modifications. So basically every action you can do in the system is captured in the audit trail. Right now, you can view it online or do exports, and we are working on enhancing the functionality to also report on that. Good. To wrap up now, some of the business benefits. First and foremost, efficient collaboration with external stakeholders while you protect your internal master data and workflows. So 2 basically separate systems, Meridian 360 in the cloud, easily accessible, and your on-premise Meridian system holding all your intellectual property and your master data. Secure access to the project data anytime, anywhere. As it's in the cloud, it's easily accessible by everybody by having proper authentication towards the system, but not the necessity of using VPN or any of that stuff. It's a cloud solution on Microsoft Azure, which is very easy for deployment and makes it very easy for you when you want to add Meridian 360 as one additional module towards your existing Meridian installation. It keeps your projects on time and within budget, helping you determining that by using reports and dashboards. And last but not least, saving time and money you spend on document control, project management, the review and validation of project deliverables, which was a big topic as we've seen from the first poll, and the offline or paper-based communication processes will be replaced. Good. Next step, if you want to learn more, we have a dedicated landing page, BlueCielo.com/extend to see more of that. If you want to know how to get started, just contact us. Also, the URL is in here. So that brings me to Q&A. I needed to rush through the last two items here, but I think it was still sufficient for you to get a good overview. I purposely spent a lot of time on giving you the overview and showing you product, which I think is key for that presentation. And now for the last couple of minutes, I would like to open up for question and answers, and I would like to hand over to Susan to read out some of them whenever they come in.
Okay, great. Thanks, Marius. So again, if you have any questions, I know we're short on time, but if you have any questions, just enter them into the question panel of GoToWebinar, and I'll read them for Marius to answer. We've already gotten quite some questions. So first question is, are there any file size limitations or limitations regarding volume?
Yeah, we put a file size limitation onto the system, which is configurable. So every owner-operator can configure that limitation based on his own needs. Right now, it's configured to be 1,000 files in one upload step and 500 megabyte each as an upload restriction. That means that at the end, you can upload 1,000 files, save them to the system, and upload that second bunch of 1,000 files. This is what we decided right now upon, and as a starting point, but again, this is up to the owner-operator at the end to configure based on their needs. Be assured that we made testing up to multiple thousands of drawings at one time.
Okay, next question. Someone asks, can you view BIM or Revit data in Meridian 360 portal?
Yeah, we can do basically in Meridian 360, what we do is we visualize PDF documents. So the entire, I would say, computing power, the entire rendition is taking place on the Meridian side. And we basically synchronize and use the renditions in Meridian for viewing purpose. So if you can render your Revit model, for example, in Meridian, which you usually can, then you can also view it in Meridian 360 and visualize it and make red lines and all that stuff upon it.
Okay. Someone asked, during the online review process, are comments saved forever?
Yeah, they are. They are. First of all, they are saved forever. When the due to time constraints, I didn't focus too much on the role of a lead reviewer. The lead reviewer at the end, he can consolidate all the comments, all the red lines which have been entered, and decided to probably remove some of them if they want to forward it to somebody else for acceptance to the contractor, for example. But still, everything is captured in the system in the audit trail.
Okay, I know we're a little over time, but I do want to try to get some of these questions answered. Somebody asked, can you attach multiple documents with one transmittal and send them to the contractor?
Sure, you can. You can. Basically, there's no real limitation in the system, so you can add thousands of files into a transmittal package and send it over.
Okay. The color coding on Meridian 360 versus Meridian in your scenario, I assume the Meridian processes are automated and there's no jumping back and forth?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we didn't touch too much on Meridian in here, but all of those processes in Meridian are either guided through by wizard pages or automated.
Okay. Somebody asked, can concurrent engineering and changes be done at the same time?
Concurrent engineering and changes. That is handled by Meridian, obviously, because Meridian 360 for Meridian itself is just one more person being responsible for a drawing. So depending on the options you do in Meridian, if you decide to do concurrent engineering and have multiple documents and multiple projects, then yes, obviously you can also in one project put a document into a transmittal and send it out and have the other project still working with that document. So yes, it's possible.
Someone asked, do you need to do the red lines on the PDF or could you do them by hand and upload a scanned PDF?
Yeah, you can also do a scanned PDF, but that scanned PDF then the red lines cannot be merged with the other ones. So it will be at the end simply an attached file to that review process, but that one is separate to, let's say, the online review, for example. But it is possible. It's just not, the system doesn't have a capability, obviously, to detect your hand-drawn lines on the drawing.
Okay. If as a reviewer you send your comments in but later decide you need to update your comments, how can you go back and edit their comments?
As long as the review is not finalized or closed yet, as a reviewer you can always open up that file and modify your redlinings and your comments you entered into that, just as you would modify a regular file. It only gets protected as soon as the reviewing is finalized by the lead reviewer.
Okay, let's just take one or two more. When sending out files, can you choose to send renditions only and not native files?
Sure. In my scenario now, I send over native files because I wanted him to update, but you've seen that you can also just pick the option to just send over renditions, which you would usually do if you want to send something for information or for authorities and you don't expect them to return a revised version. Yeah.
Okay. Are there any installations necessary for the contractor?
No, for the contractor, there are no installations necessary. It works purely on HTML5, so no plugins, add-ons, or installation necessary for the contractor.
Okay, let's take one more. What type of documents can be uploaded and edited directly in the web client without local installation of software?
If the web client is referred to be Meridian 360, then you can download whatever file format you want to. Basically, every file on your computer will do it. The CAD integration and external reference scanning right now works for AutoCAD. So, but in theory, can upload whatever file you want to.
Okay, I have one person who really wants their question answered, so they want to know where the data is hosted.
Okay, the data right now is hosted in Microsoft Azure in a data center in North America. Depending on customer need, it's also possible to have data stored locally because of regulations or laws. The data needs to be stored locally, so also that is possible. By default, it's a multi-tenant solution and the data is stored in North America.
Okay. Excellent. So I know there's some questions that we didn't get to, and I apologize for that, but we'll be sure to have Marius follow up with you with answers after the fact. And otherwise, if you have any additional questions or want more information, you can use the links on the slide in front of you here. And also, as a reminder, you will receive a thank you email from us with a link to view the recorded version of this webinar. And finally, when you close your GoToWebinar browser, you'll be prompted to fill out a short 5-question survey about this webinar. We ask that you please just take a few moments to provide your feedback so we can continue to improve our webinars. So with that, thank you everyone so much for attending and have a great day.